Thank you, Commander, for such a generous introduction. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. The honor of serving as your National Adjutant is humbling, and it's made more so by leaders like you, Commander Parsetich, my dear friend Mark Burgess, his predecessor Art Wilson, Dave Gorman, Ken Wolf, the late Rick Patterson, and the many in this room who are lions on behalf of our fellow veterans. It's been a historic year with DAV seeing the passage of the PACT Act, the largest health care and benefit expansion in our nation's history. And we can be proud knowing that not only was DAV a force in making it law, we are the ones who brought it to the attention of the American public to begin with, starting with our own Chief Communications and Outreach Officer, Dan Clare, right back there in the booth. No one fought harder or longer than all of you, our member leaders. You're all leaders if you're in this room. And you, more than anyone else anywhere, deserve tremendous credit for the act becoming law. Like so many of you, my heroes have always been veterans. That's what inspired me to join the military. And one veteran in my life, though he is long past, was my chief inspiration. John Clear, my grandfather, was a veteran of the United States Army. Growing up, I was insatiable when it came to learning about World War II and all that he had experienced. He felt, as many of us do, that defending our nation was a basic obligation of citizenship. He led by example and was revered by his entire family. He didn't often talk about the war, and he never bragged, but every once in a while, particularly after a little Windsor Canadian, and always after too many questions from me, he'd allow me to peek into his past life, and he'd share a fragment or two from his experiences. On those rare occasions, he'd start a story, and for a moment, a spark would touch his eye, and it was as if he was there. And in an instant, I was there too. He spoke about his buddies in the war with reverence, but it was never long before he'd realized that he wasn't equipped to explain to a boy what happens in combat, or that he'd gone too far already. And he'd work his way out of it. The details would become more general, or he'd trail off into silence. What I learned from him and about him is that he faced hell in Burma serving with Merrill's Marauders. After earning the Bronze Star with Valor as a personal decoration and a Bronze Star as a unit award, he was called back for Korea and served as a jump master at Fort Benning. Though the Army and the war were an indelible part of him, the sacrifices he made and the things he experienced had taken a toll on his body and his soul. He literally carried the war with him in the form of enemy shrapnel, as so many of you do. While he never complained and refused to even let me help him with a claim, he lived with pain every day. But the example he set was far-reaching. It was my greatest gift, an inheritance. Nearly every act of his life was a case study on how to live with war, with love and loss. He was regimented and strong, proud and humble. He had replaced his mission in the military with the task of raising a family, caring for them, protecting them, and preparing them to be people of character, albeit in an imperfect way that was sometimes marred by the actions of a man coping with severe post-traumatic stress. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in his honor, but like many of you, my time in uniform was cut short. So I decided to finish my enlistment by joining DAV. As a trainee, as we were called back then, I was blessed. Thanks for putting that up, guys. I tell you what, I was blessed to meet and in many cases advocate for some incredibly special people. Some of them are here today, and some of them are no longer with us. When we talk about the promise we owe veterans, which is the foundation of our calling, We do so knowing that our mission represents a debt that can never be fully repaid. But through every contribution we make, we honor the sacrifices and contributions of our fallen. Like my grandfather, and like Jim Sursley, and Rick Patterson, and Gary Augustine, and Jesse Brown, and Dave Tannenbaum. And we do so in communion with amazing history-making people like Delphine Metcalf Foster, the first woman to be elected DAV National Commander. Like Dave Riley, the first Coast Guard and quadruple amputee National Commander. Like Butch Whitehead, the first post-9/11 National Commander who led us through 2 years during the pandemic. And like Tori Joyner, the first female NSO to earn her 30-year ring. These are just a few among the many who have made our cause their life's calling. Disabled veterans are the most creative people in America today. And going back to my grandfather, there was almost nothing he couldn't do with an engine, a home, a gadget. He always found a way to adapt and overcome. If it didn't exist, he'd make it. And that makes sense. So many of us served in dangerous situations where nimble thinking saved lives and the rules of engagement seemed stacked against us. And we're doubly innovative for navigating beyond the limitations of our injuries and finding ways to continue our service when our time in uniform is through. The veterans we serve deserve nothing less. This week, we were proud to host an accelerator for veteran entrepreneurs right here in Atlantic City. Entrepreneurship is the ultimate form of economic empowerment, and it's perfect for disabled veterans because it allows us to build businesses around our greatest strengths and abilities. Our acquisition of DAV Patriot Boot Camp is more than a new initiative. It sprung from our employment effort and marks an empowering way of thinking about how we can ensure promises are kept to veterans. It's the result of an evolution that began with Art Wilson's call for us to prepare for the next century of service to veterans. While we've made tremendous progress, that evolution is not complete. It can't be if we're to meet the ever-changing needs of the heroes we serve. The infusion of ideas and energy we are enjoying from this program and what follows is bringing incredible momentum to our charity. In the coming months, we'll be reaching out to all of you to launch a new initiative, the DAV Caregiver Program. The program is powered by T-Care, a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business founded by DAV Patriot Boot Camp alumnus Ali Ahmadi. An Army veteran, Ali utilized DAV in obtaining his earned benefits. He's an innovator whose personal mission is to provide caregivers with resources, screenings, personalized care plans, and one-on-one support. Through this program, DAV and our auxiliary will be able to provide the life-changing service to the heroes who share in those they love.
Oftentimes, veterans don't know how to navigate the support and resources that they need, especially after they're discharged out of service. I was a U.S. Naval drone pilot. I was flying different autonomous systems. Through an injury, I had some disability, and I did not know how to navigate some of the support that I needed. I was introduced to a DAV representative, and this representative helped me understand the resources and benefits that were at my disposal. I went through the DAV Patriot Boot Camp program 7 years ago when my current company was an idea stage company. One of those mentors that was connected to me later on became one of my co-founders in the company. The military teaches you to think on your feet and be able to quickly overcome and adapt to that situation, which is exactly what the business world is.
But this isn't the only example of how we're engaging the growing 5,000 member community we've inherited through Patriot Boot Camp. Next month, DAV Patriot Boot Camp alumnus Keith Waldrop has organized a special way to honor the fallen among some of our nation's most elite.
In the United States Marine Corps, there's a group of Marines that pride themselves on being the unknown, the unrecognized. A group of Marines that have pushed themselves both mentally and physically to their breaking point just for an opportunity to be part of these elite communities. This group of Marines ask no thanks for the things they do. They find honor and pride in their willingness to die in the shadows. This is why we remember them. This is why we ride.
Through the Marine Recon Raider Remembrance Ride, more than 200 motorcyclists will ride from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, to our nation's capital and back in honor of their fallen. They'll stop along the way to pay tribute to Gold Star families. They plan to ride through Arlington and past the Marine Corps War Memorial before heading back to North Carolina. After experiencing DAV through Patriot Boot Camp, as you can see in the video, Keith and his team at Asymmetric Solutions named DAV a benefiting charity. Dr. Maria Luque, an Air Force veteran and health science professor, is the founder of the company Fitness in Menopause. She attended DAV Patriot Boot Camp this spring and was part of the accelerator here. She's leveraging her expertise to support our efforts to advocate for her fellow women veterans, which is yet another area where we are leading the way. They're just two of the 1,000+ veterpreneurs who are now part of the DAV community. Internally, we're looking ahead at ways we can do more to serve veterans, their families, and their survivors. Through a pilot program with the Department of Veterans Affairs at 5 cemeteries, DAV volunteers driving DAV carts are transporting the families of the fallen to their loved ones' final resting place. We are hopeful this will become a new offshoot of our voluntary services program. It would allow us to go beyond providing a lifetime of support to veterans and their survivors. It's one of the most meaningful things we can do to honor the lives of those who made our freedoms possible. Your DAV continues to be the most resourceful, substantive charity in the business of serving those who served. As we look ahead to the future, we must look back on one of the most impactful years in our history. When National Commander Joe Parsetich took DAV's reins in August 2022, our organization was coming off a fierce battle on Capitol Hill. The fight for the most sweeping legislation to bring justice for generations of veterans exposed to toxins and their families was nearing the finish line. Just days before we gathered in Orlando, Florida, the Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, honoring our promise to address Comprehensive Toxics Act, or the Honoring Our Pact Act of 2022, cleared the Senate and was on its way to the President's desk for signature. Spirits were high as years of tireless work from DAV members and advocates helped clear the path to pass the most comprehensive toxic exposure veterans bill ever. Of course, we knew our work on behalf of veterans would be far from over, so we got down to business, electing new leadership and voting on essential resolutions affecting ill and injured veterans nationwide. During his acceptance speech, Commander Parsetich, a service-connected disabled Air Force veteran of the Vietnam War, reinforced DAV's commitment to our fellow veterans.
I want you to understand just how humbled I am by this opportunity and how hard I will work to honor your service as we contribute to the good fight that we wage for justice.
This past year was highlighted by remembrance, transition, and the return of familiar DAV events and activities. We saw a continued resurgence of in-person events, including the DAV 5K, National Disabled Veterans Winter Sports and Golf Clinics, and various homeless veteran standouts. We also saw the welcomed return of many hosted events from departments, chapters, and the auxiliary. In March, we marked the 20-year anniversary of the start of the Iraq War. As we all watched or served, PTSD, TBI, IED, and burn pit became household terms and, consequently, helped shape many of DAV's critical policy goals, especially around veteran mental health and toxic exposures. Through the renewed public interest in veteran care, DAV made sure any proposed legislation included provisions for all generations who have been forever changed by their service. And in April, Mark Burgess, who served as DAV National Adjutant for a decade, announced his retirement after nearly 3 decades of service with distinction to his fellow veterans. In his DAV career, he served in many roles throughout the organization, starting as an apprentice service officer in 1995. As a tremendous leader and friend, he has left an indelible mark on this organization and all of us. DAV was founded on the principle that this nation's first duty to veterans is the rehabilitation and welfare of its wartime disabled. For more than a century, we've kept that promise and continue to be the premier organization advocating on behalf of ill and injured veterans. In 2022, 46 DAV resolutions were included in federal legislation, 17 of which were adopted and signed into law. At our annual Midwinter Conference in Washington, D.C., DAV members brought our message to lawmakers. Through personal conversations with members of Congress, we made sure our critical policy goals were heard and understood. During the event, Commander Parsetich provided expert testimony before a joint session of the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committees, laying out DAV's legislative priorities for the 118th Congress. Using his own story, he emphasized the importance of providing the Department of Veterans Affairs the resources it needs to address veterans' mental health and reduce veteran suicides.
We can and we must do more to end the national tragedy of veteran suicide.
As we look to the future, DAV remains as confident as ever in achieving our critical policy goals and ensuring more victories for veterans. In 2022, DAV benefit advocates interviewed over 285,000 claimants and filed more than 174,000 new claims for more than 500,000 injuries and illnesses. And with over 1.1 million veterans entrusting DAV with their powers of attorney, representing $26 billion in earned benefits, we remain second to none. DAV's benefit advocates also assisted more than 20,000 transitioning service members. And nearly 13,000 attendees came to one of our 393 information seminars last year to learn about their VA benefits and the services DAV offers. As disasters struck across the nation and veterans and their family members found themselves in need of aid, DAV's disaster relief program was there, ready to provide desperately needed assistance. From tornadoes and fires to floods and hurricanes, DAV was able to issue 975 comfort and hygiene supply kits and nearly $2.1 million in emergency funds, assisting nearly 3,100 veterans in 15 states, Puerto Rico, and the District of Columbia. Since the disaster relief program's inception in 1968, DAV has dispersed more than $19.5 million to victims. Like so many Americans, seeking out and securing meaningful employment is paramount in the minds of veterans. This past year, DAV and Recruit Military hosted 85 in-person and virtual career fairs with more than 16,000 attendees, resulting in nearly 10,000 job offers. Since 2014, DAV has connected over 290,000 attendees with more than 173,000 job offers. From Caffeine Connect webinars to Shark Tank-style competitions and multi-day on-site intensive training events, DAV Patriot Bootcamp has enjoyed big successes this past year as well. The program assembles and activates an inclusive, dynamic community that empowers vetrepreneurs to become creators, innovators, and new economy leaders. 3 cohorts, totaling more than 100 participants, received one-on-one mentorship and training with industry leaders to help them grow their skills and confidence to succeed and become benefits providers and job creators. DAV's membership department continued to find innovative ways to help our grassroots recruiters share the hope and inspiration of our life-changing services and empowering mission. The Member Resources section of our recently refreshed DAV.org website makes it easier than ever to access important information. Members no longer have to log in to access membership recruiting material, including toolkits, webinars, videos, instructions, and guides. We also added smartphone-friendly QR codes to the Recruit a Warrior program. These custom codes can be printed on business cards and stationery or shared as a digital image, allowing veterans with a smartphone to scan them for instant membership information while giving you the referral credit. And to show our continued appreciation for the services and sacrifices of our members, the Member Advantages program provided an ever-expanding suite of discounts in an easy-to-use app that connects you with local businesses and national brands. DAV's Transportation Network volunteers were busy in 2022 as they provided more than 210,000 rides to and from VA medical appointments. Across the nation, these volunteer drivers logged more than 555,000 hours of drive time across more than 9.2 million miles. DAV's fleet of vehicles is instrumental in making health care that veterans have earned more easily available. In 2022, DAV departments and chapters, along with our oldest corporate partner, Ford Motor Company, donated 55 vehicles to the VA at a value of $1.7 million. Since the Transportation Network began in 1987, DAV has donated more than 3,600 vehicles, while Ford has donated more than 250 vehicles. And just a reminder, we are always looking for new volunteer drivers. With the DAV Scholarship, we are proud to invest in the futures of our outstanding student volunteers while promoting volunteerism in our younger generation. We awarded a total of $110,000 to 10 deserving students. Evan Osgood from Loveland, Ohio, received the 2022 top scholarship of $30,000.
This scholarship will be huge for me in my next steps of going to college and continuing to learn and grow and make an impact in our veteran communities all across the country.
After a 2-year hiatus, we were proud to return to Riverside, Iowa in 2022 for an in-person National Disabled Veterans Golf Clinic. The event, which we co-present with the VA, brought more than 120 disabled veteran golfers out to the links to hone their skills and engage in some friendly competition. Army veteran Michonne Harrison received the DAV Freedom Award as the person who best demonstrated the spirit of the week. Michonne, who was medically discharged in 2001 after she started losing her sight, was a joyful presence on the course and used her positivity to inspire those around her.
We have each other's six no matter what. And that's what I think adaptive sports, it just brings out the best in you, even on your worst day.
We also co-presented the National Disabled Veterans Winter Sports Clinic with the VA in beautiful Snowmass, Colorado. This 37th year of the clinic marked a return to full-scale participation. More than 300 participants experienced miracles on a mountainside as they took part in sports, including adaptive skiing, sled hockey, snowmobiling, and fly fishing. Minnesota Army National Guard veteran Sandy Braunstein received the DAV Freedom Award. A serious injury during a training accident eventually led to having her leg amputated. Despite the struggles on her recovery journey, she has found ways to find joy and community while providing inspiration to other disabled veterans.
Allow your burdens that you feel to become something beautiful, and this does it for you. And you will take that home and it never leaves.
The Charitable Service Trust supports dozens of unique initiatives that provide ill and injured veterans with rehabilitative and emotional therapy, transition assistance, employment support, emergency relief, and a range of other services. Last year, the Trust awarded $9.8 million in grants to organizations dedicated to these causes. Additionally, the Trust has earned the coveted 4-star rating from Charity Navigator more than 15 times since first being evaluated in 2002, with 3 perfect overall scores in recent years. This acknowledgement speaks volumes about the Trust's careful and efficient stewardship of donated funds, as more than 95 cents of every dollar donated to the Trust went to programs that directly support veterans. DAV continues to increase our efforts in reaching veterans, potential members, their families, and donors. And we're finding new ways to get in front of new audiences. Perhaps the most noticeable change is the look of DAV's website. The refreshed design focuses on easily connecting people with the information and services DAV provides, no matter what type of device someone uses. DAV's ongoing partnership with the Ultimate Fighting Championship remained strong last year, with UFC fighters sharing their thanks to those who've worn the uniform of this great country.
Thank you to all the veterans and all the people who have served the country to help make this a better place. We appreciate every single one of you guys.
DAV Chief Communications and Outreach Officer Dan Clare joined television personality Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs and Deadliest Catch fame on his podcast, The Way I Heard It, to talk about Dan's whistleblower role in exposing the toxic burn pits in Iraq. His 2008 exposure of the issue led to DAV's burn pit registry, national public awareness, and DAV's principal role in drafting legislation for the PACT Act. We once again worked with Harvard Law School to present the DAV Distinguished Speaker Series. This year, author, documentarian, and past DAV Bugle Award recipient Sebastian Younger talked about a growing civilian-military divide and joined veterans to discuss their experiences and ideas of how to close the gap. DAV teamed up with military veterans in journalism to prepare veterans to participate in a speakers bureau to train newsrooms to responsibly and accurately cover topics related to military service and the veteran experience. Thanks to DAV partner USAA, DAV's 2020 Disabled American Veteran of the Year, Army veteran Adam Greathouse, attended Super Bowl 57 as part of the NFL's Salute to Service initiative. Adam has donated more than 5,100 volunteer hours sharing his story with veterans and VA staff members to provide invaluable insight into what disabled veterans experience during their recovery. DAV volunteers joined forces with the TV program Military Makeover with Montel to help provide Army National Guard veteran Jonathan Thomas and his family a home that was more accommodating to his disabilities. He took the full force of a suicide bomber's blast from an attack on his unit during a 2008 deployment to Afghanistan. Jonathan was left with a severe spinal injury, and peripheral damage to his right eye, but continues to work in his community, helping children with disabilities. We also continued our partnership with Golden Corral through the restaurant's Military Appreciation Night. Each year around Veterans Day, they provide free meals to veterans. In 2022, more than 158,000 meals were served. The annual event raised more than $900,000 for DAV, bringing the total to over $18 million since the partnership began in 2001. Camp Corral, a one-of-a-kind summer camp for children of wounded, disabled, or fallen service members and veterans, came back in 2022, hosting 17 summer camps. To date, Camp Corral has served over 30,000 children with a military connection, the majority of whom have a parent who was wounded, made ill, or killed in service. Camp Corral helps these kids with experiences that help them overcome their unique challenges. Through DAV's Just Be Kids scholarship program, more than 5,600 children of wounded, disabled, or fallen veterans have attended the camp at no cost. DAV has donated more than $4.8 million to Camp Corral since 2014. In November, we hosted the 10th annual DAV 5K, which brought nearly 3,000 people together, both virtually and in Cincinnati, to raise awareness and money for DAV's programs and services. Participants ran, walked, rolled, and rode their way to raising close to $475,000, surpassing the event's fundraising goal. We also expanded our Field of Flags campaign nationwide. We partnered with 7 schools and 3 organizations to set up fields of American flags to honor local veterans while raising money to support ill and injured heroes. In this first trial year of expansion, we raised more than $16,000. DAV's Victories for Veterans public service announcement campaign doubled its reach in 2022, generating 16.7 billion impressions. That's a donated media value of $132 million. Since 2014, DAV PSAs have aired more than 1.1 million times on television alone through the generosity of stations nationwide. The DAV Auxiliary had a busy year, starting with Darlene Spence being elected as the national commander. The organization saw big growth this year as they welcomed 9 new units to the Auxiliary family. All its members, new and long-standing, continued to be steadfast, vocal advocates alongside DAV to champion legislation that benefits disabled veterans, their families, and their caregivers. The Auxiliary continued to focus on families of veterans. In December, they launched DAV Auxiliary for Kids, a grant program to assist children of ill or injured veterans with financial need to attend camps or participate in extracurricular activities such as sports or school trips. Additionally, they awarded a total of $40,000 in scholarships to 29 students after receiving a record number of applications. Our Auxiliary is poised and excited for continued growth and success in the coming year. It has been inspiring to witness how you all have faced and overcome the challenges of the past few years. The energy and effort that you have poured into our mission through volunteering, advocacy, recruiting, and perhaps most importantly, camaraderie, has proven that we will do whatever it takes to make sure our brothers and sisters are cared for. Thank you for your sustained support. Thank you for your commitment to our mission. Thank you for being there for each other. We continue to become a stronger organization each and every day because of you. It's an honor to serve alongside you as we keep our promise to America's veterans, their survivors, and their families. There is no way that I can conclude my first report as your National Adjutant without honoring our now former National Adjutant, who I look for whenever I hear that title, by the way. He's the one who made what you just watched possible. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for our own Mark Burgess. There are only 8 people in history who have held the post of National Adjutant before me. And the leadership we enjoyed under Mark, my dear friend, was singular. Following the hard-earned stability we achieved under Art, Mark ushered in a golden age for DAV. And he and you, our members who make it happen, deserve tremendous credit for all that was made possible during the last decade of achievement and excellence. Just one more thing before I conclude this morning. I want to tell you that yesterday someone here came up to me and asked me what it's like to no longer have a boss. I said, well, frankly, I miss Mark, but make no mistake, I still have a boss. In fact, I have a lot of bosses. I have more bosses today than at any other time in my nearly 30-year career. And that doesn't just start and end with our national commander, the commander who appoints me. I answer to our board of directors, a board which is made up mostly of members who serve in one capacity or another on our National Executive Committee. A committee comprised of 21 districts elected by you, all of you. And I want to assure you that it is my intention to serve you to the absolute best of my ability with care and concern and passion and with integrity and with strong communication. And now that I have essentially told you all that you're my boss, which might have been a mistake. Who around here can tell me if I can have a day off after convention? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Commander, for the faith and confidence that you've placed in me, and thank God for our disabled American veterans. Commander, this concludes my report.